When it comes to understanding what we can do in the face of worry, fear, anxiety, stress, and maybe more importantly, what we want to do every day in order to prepare for the encounter of things life might hand us that we may not be expecting, we want to go beyond self-regulation. So self-regulation is one thing, right? And that is, I want to be able to regulate my nervous system right now with shifting how I think about what I'm thinking about. And we do that most effectively with the breath, a breathing technique, and our body and how we're utilizing our body, how we are treating our body. So for example, if we can change the temperature of our body when we're feeling a little anxious through being intentional about changing our body, through what we're thinking, through our breathing, and because let's say we have one of those beautiful seat warmers in our car, we may very well be able to more effectively communicate with our nervous system that everything's okay, right? Because we're changing the temperature of our insides by affecting the temperature on the outside. So, right? I believe that both can help. Both warmth can help and cooling can help. And it really kind of becomes an experiment. Like, what do we need in that moment? So if we're really, really hot, right, then really what we might need is an ice bath, okay, or a cool bath, a jump in the pool, jump in the beach. If we're really cold and shivering, then what we would want is some warmth. And the idea here is to play with what works for you. I know that for me, there are times where some cool water, a cooling system of some sort helps me to relax my nervous system. And I know that the opposite is true too. Sometimes I want a blanket. Sometimes I want a sweater. I find that texture and how we manage our different senses is key. It's instrumental to how we're self-regulating. Okay? So we want to think of our senses, right? Vision, smell, sense of smell, sense of taste, auditory, right? What we're hearing, and sense of touch. Those are our five senses. And so historically, we have, I think, attempted to regulate through simply wanting to tell ourselves, hey, everything's okay, you have nothing to worry about. And so us being able to self-regulate from shifting the story to a more positive one, to one of we're okay, we have nothing to worry about, is a great beginning and a necessary one. And if our biochemistry is really compromised because we haven't slept well or had a natural night of sleep in years, because we have been eating large amounts of sugar and other inflammatory foods and are severely overweight, if we have patterns of chronic addiction using drugs, alcohol, etc., our biochemistry is likely very compromised. It's likely not working with us at the moment. Okay? And so you telling yourself in that moment, hey, there's nothing for you to worry about, you may not necessarily get the effects or the results or the shift that you'd like to get in that moment. Now, the more we come into alignment, as I like to say, the more we come into this range of change, right? We have access then to more parts of us, and that story we're telling ourselves that, hey, we have nothing to worry about, we're okay, becomes far more effective. So the story we tell ourselves is important, and it's a necessary beginning step, and initially it may not necessarily do what we want it to do. We want to get the rest of the senses involved. So, what are we smelling? Is it aromatherapy? Is it a soup that reminds us of something our grandmother used to cook, and we have really warm, fuzzy feelings about our grandmother, feeling very protected and nurtured? Is it a clean smell that we're smelling? What are we listening to, right? Sound can be so profound, right? We can have a great relaxing song that can put us right to bed. It can relax our nervous system right on the spot, right? Maybe it's an audiobook or a podcast with someone who's narrating it, whose voice really soothes you, right? Maybe it's calling a friend and saying, hey, can you talk to me for a second? It actually may be little to do with the person and that what the person is going to say to you, and more to do with the comforting context of their voice, what we taste. So maybe in that moment, we get something warm, wet, a soft drink, maybe a tea, maybe a medicinal tea, an herbal tea, a jasmine tea, something that brings about a sense of presence. It could just be a glass of water. And then finally, touch. So what's happening as far as where our body is? What are we wearing? Where are we positioned? What position are we in? Sometimes stretching, sometimes going for a walk, sometimes laying down or sitting down if we're standing up. All of these things can be instrumental in that moment where we're wanting to self-regulate. Now, going beyond self-regulating, we want to self-direct. So as we like to say, as I work with others, I explain to them that every day is training day. So how you live your life today, from what you eat to how you move your body to the way you interacted with others to how you answered your emails to the intent of your posts on social media to the way you spoke to your loved ones to the way you treated your sleep to the way you tended to your coffee in the morning. Everything is directly going to affect tomorrow and your future. And so what I like to say is that every day is training day. And if we treat every day as training day, right, then our ability and really our need to self-regulate will shift. We'll be better at it. And in some ways, there might be less need for it. Because as we live in alignment, as we become healthier, as we become more in charge of our nervous systems, we can direct how we want tomorrow to go. We can direct how we want our future to go and program that into every one of our daily activities. And by way of practice, there'll be less need for us to self-regulate in the future because you will have directed how you want to live. And you'll have many repetitions of self-regulating in the event that you need to self-regulate. I would say one of the other things you want to really pay attention to in terms of how you live today is pay attention to the intent behind your actions and behaviors. What is the intent? Is the intent that you need to be seen, heard, validated? Or is the intent that you just want to go out there and speak your truth, live your life, be authentically you, be the best version of you, be the healthiest version of you, be loving, be caring, be kind, be productive, creative, be intentional? Might be one of the most significant ways we can go about hacking how we want to live in the future. Being really, really mindful and intentional and conscious of, why am I really doing this? And more importantly, what intent is behind What's the intention behind why I'm doing what I'm doing?